Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for another special live session with all of you. I'm Itzik, Amiel, and together with my friend Rabbi David Schwarz. Hello, David. We're excited to bring to you another inspiring standout episode. And this is actually a collaborative broadcast that brought to you by the ABA International Law Section and the Switch. And actually, we are the first time live both in LinkedIn and Facebook. So hopefully, you see us everywhere. We see you coming in, we see you joining us. So thank you very, very much for that. Because in this series, David and I will interview an international legal leaders on the amazing community of the ABA International Law Section members and share with you, as always, new insights, ideas, stories, strategies to inspire you, to help you grow your professional practice or your career. And we always have to add, even your life. So if you are with us, we are live. David, hi, how are you, my friend? Another month fast.
I am well. It's hard to believe how quickly the months pass, but getting the chance to see you is always wonderful. So it's wonderful to see you, and I'm excited about our guest today, about Elizabeth. So, what do you have? What do you have planned for us?
So always I'm asking you things unpredictable, right? So why don't you share with us, David, maybe an unpredictable moment that happened to you maybe in the last, let's say, a month that really obliged you to change your planned actions?
Ah,
Anything.
uh, you know, uh, I'm not sure about change my planned actions, but it changed the way I think about something. I was playing a game with my nieces and nephews that we were visiting in Israel. Um, and in the game, if you the game is called Ticket to Ride, and you have to try and accomplish all of these journeys as part of the game. And I realized at the very end of the game that the long trip that I was supposed to try and create a chain of trains from one location to another location, I had omitted the last little bit. And so I
Oh,
hadn't finished. And um, just before I had realized this, my nephew began to bawl because he also had not finished his. And the result is that you don't just not get the points that are associated with it, but you get a penalty of
wow.
a minus associated with the points. And I realized that although that is a feature of this particular game, it's not actually true in real life. That in real life, when you do 95% of the job, you don't actually get penalized for, as if you didn't do everything, as if you didn't do anything. That actually on so many metrics, we often require ourselves to be perfect. And that requirement to be perfect actually so often inhibits us. And I realized that I had this opportunity to say, you know what, my nephew is 7, 8, so it makes sense that he would cry and be upset about it. But I was able to say, you know what, you just like you didn't do it, I didn't do it. We're all imperfect. And if we recognize that and allow ourselves to be imperfect, well, then we can explore things that we might not have otherwise. And that was a lesson that I took away from that game. And I think it's an important lesson in life that we really need to recognize that we're not penalized for the things that we start and we don't finish. We just, they're just things that we can do, and we can pick them back up. And if we do that, we can live a more full life that doesn't feel the stress that's associated with having that need to finish something. That's what came up this past
Great, David. I mean, we're
week.
sure going to connect
I
this.
hope that answers your question. It's not quite something that changed, but it changed my attitude, changed my thinking about things.
Sure, and it's definitely a learning, and I'm sure we're going to connect it later on in our conversation with our guests. Because this episode, actually, those of you joining us, thank you very much for joining us. This episode is titled "Legally Launched: From NASA Engineer to IP Lawyer and Peace Advocate." And you, as you're going to know, you'll find all the things about this title and this episode. Again, if you're joining us, let us know who you are, where you're dialing from. I see some of you already said, I see Natalia writing, great to see you, Itzik and David. Good morning. Good morning to you as well, Natalia. Don't be ashamed. Ask. We know you are there, but we want our guests to know. So let us know who you are. And if you have questions, of course, to our guests during the session, do it also, please, during the session. There's a quote, David, by John F. Kennedy that I love, who said, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other.
Mm.
And I want to ask our audience to pause a second and for a moment about this code, because I think it's right to say in today really rapidly evolving professional landscape, career transition aren't just common, they're becoming essential for growth. I mean, I didn't see anybody didn't move in the past. And our parents, oh, to move, it's very much, a signs of not comfortable, not good in your job. But now there's many people moving from a career, for a job to a job, because we're living in the era where the average person changed career, not just jobs, multiple times. That isn't really a sign of instability. It's a mark of adaptability and even courage, if you want. Think about it. Most people spend more time planning for the next vacation than planning for their career evolution. You know, it's a position that often leads to the most profound professional breakthrough. We don't spend any time on it. In fact, the most successful leaders we interviewed in the past, you, David, and myself, share one common trait. If you really look and listen to all those conversations we had, they've mastered the art of strategic reinvention. Do you agree, David?
I never thought of it in that direction, but you're absolutely right. Almost every person that we interviewed has gone through transformation and transition from one job to another. Almost no one, I can't think of any of the people that we interviewed that were in the same position for their entire career. So you're absolutely right, and I never really even collected those thoughts together in that way.
And even more than that, then none of them even, I think, consciously planned it. It happened to them in life. Life them took them. And I think what fascinates me is how career transition have become the new power play in professional development. If you really think about it carefully, instead of viewing change as disruption, that all of you that are trying to implement AI, oh my God, instead of seeing it like that, today leaders are really embracing it as a catalyst for unlocking your full potential. That's what it is for. Every fear that comes your way, it's a breakthrough moment. And those people understand that staying relevant means staying curious. And staying curious means staying teachable. You want to learn more. So the most powerful transition, if you look, often really happen when we stop asking, what should I do next? And start asking instead of that, who do I want to become?
Hmm.
And when you think about the question differently, as you're going to see today, you're going to see totally different way of path for your own life, your own career. It's about finding the sweet spot where your expertise meets your passion and your experience creates, if you want, an impact. Now, before we dive in, I want you to think about this. When was the last time you completely reinvented yourself? Consciously, you thought about it, you did it. What did it take for you to leave a successful career to pursue something entirely different? Not when you go pension, now. These aren't just hypothetical questions I'm asking you. They're invitation for you to listen to us and really explore your own potential for transformation. And I hope this discussion today, this conversation will let you think about it, because this person we're going to talk today, and the reason we have the honor to have this session together with advocate Elizabeth Chien-Hale is because of that. And I'm not sure if she was realizing what she did in her life, how amazing it is. I think after speaking to her and preparing, we learn it, because the story is a masterclass in professional evolution and purposeful pivoting. Because her journey, as you're going to hear today, challenge our assumption about career path and remind us that our greatest contribution often lying beyond, as you all know, our comfort zone. So before we invite Elizabeth to join us, let me give you a short highlights about Elizabeth. Again, your time is to tell us that you are with us here. So make sure you're telling us right now in the chat your name, where you're dialing from, and of course, if you have questions to Elizabeth during the session, do it as well in the same place. So Elizabeth Chien-Hale, and I overpronounce your family name, Elizabeth. Soon you're going to correct that. Is 20-year plus veteran in the field of intellectual property law. Elizabeth brings an entrepreneurial, client-side perspective of the services of protecting intellectual property rights across borders, especially in the United States and China. Elizabeth has been seen the protection of process from cradle to grave, as she described it, from persecution to litigation. And she rooted in persecution originally and opinion work in electrical mechanical arts. She has studied her career in the Silicon Valley, worked for firms and clients like 3M, Palm, Adobe, applied material, big names as you all see. And she also been Apple's senior patent counsel and China coordinator, where she gained a deep understanding of the handset industry and outsourced manufacturing process. As the APAC IP director for Eaton, yes, she was there as well. She was involved deeply with IP discussion with the C919 project with the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, COMAC, and she's also a joint faculty at the Santa Clara University School of Law since 2023 and University of Hawaii Richardson School of Law in 2024. She gained her BSME from the University of California in Berkeley in 83 and MA in computational linguistics from the University of California in Berkeley in 1989. And she got the JD law degree, as you all know, from the University of Hawaii in 1994 and an LLM from Georgetown University Center in 1997 with distinction. Elizabeth has several roles as the American Bar Association International Law Section. She is the vice chair of the International and Juridical Affairs Committee between 2017-2018. She was the co-chair of the International Litigation Committee between 23 and 24, and currently is the chair of the Asia Pacific region of the section. So I can tell more, and I'm stealing time from Elizabeth. So without further ado, let's bring Elizabeth David. I think she hates hearing about it, so I'm sure. Hi, Elizabeth, and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Isaac. Hi, David. Thank you for that great introduction. I really took interest in your comments because, yes, that they're going to be quite relevant to our discussions.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your valuable time. Again, I know that all of us here for a retreat. And let's dive in right away to the conversation. David, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. First of all, one of the things that Itzik didn't mention is that I've had a chance to work closely with Elizabeth over the last 5 years, because Elizabeth has served as one of my deputies, indeed my only deputy for many of the years when I was a budget officer, and then when I was vice chair and chair-elect, and eventually chair of the section. And so it was so great to have you on, and now great to see your own path developing within the international law section in the International Litigation Committee. And so thank you so much for joining our Standout series. And of course, as Itzik mentioned, the title provides a real great outline for our discussion today. And again, it's legally launched from NASA engineer to IP and peace advocate. And so let's start at the beginning, Elizabeth. Tell us how you became a NASA engineer and why you decided to pivot and go to law school.
Oh, okay. Well, I am an immigrant. So I immigrated from Taiwan when I was age 13. As an immigrant, you kind of abandon your past self, you forge new self in the United States, and like a lot of Asian kids, because emphasis, I think, culturally on math and the educational differences, I was picked as a science and math person. So it was a natural fit for me to go into engineering. And this is an era when I was born in the 1960s. We launched the first person on the moon. And I remember being woken up in the middle of the night by my grandfather, who's a telecommunication engineer, and he was the head of telecommunication bureau in Taiwan. And the excitement I felt, my love for him and his love for space, which became my love for space. So they're both kind of family and background information. So it was a great opportunity when I went to engineering, and I had this internship with NASA, and I interned there we had several opportunities, so we supposed to rotate. So that's what I did. And David, this goes back to your first point. The thing about space, though, I think that the one thing I still love it. It's kind of my first and still remains my main love and passion in life. Is I think it scarred me in one way is because I became very fixated with minute differences in life, especially with distance, right? Or mistakes. Because in space, there is no room. It's not like I'm seeking perfection, but it's just your mistakes are going to be compounded so many times. 2 millimeter difference. By the time you reach the moon, it's going to be 2 miles difference. You cannot afford that kind of mistakes. And so as you were saying that, I say, yes, I need to unlearn what I learned in those days because I'm no longer in space. I'll probably not go to space for the rest of my life. It's time to settle on the earth and learn how to live a happy earthly.
Ah, excellent.
I feel
Excellent.
we can end up the session right now.
Yeah, that's a
It's a great
great,
point.
great point.
It's actually a question I'm asking even at home. I don't understand why we're investing hundreds of billions to go to space when we have so many things to do here on Earth. But okay, that's a time for a different discussion. Thanks very much, Elizabeth, for sharing your inspiring story. I mean, I think if people are hearing you well, I think what fascinates me, and I'm sure everybody who listens to your story to hear more about your journey, is how you navigated that crucial transition point. Sometimes our greatest strength are actually or can actually box us in, but the true growth often happens, as we're going to hear today and we're hearing from you, is when we dare to step outside of those comfortable boundaries. Sometimes it's our studies, our environment, our parents, whatever. So to continue our conversation, as I mentioned in our short introduction, Elizabeth, that you went to law school to the University of Hawaii and you LLM from the University of Georgetown University. So the question for you is, why you went to these schools? I mean, there is probably a reason you chose because you don't live there. And how did you end up being an IP lawyer?
Yeah, this is, I think I didn't quite answer David's second point, which kind of segues well into your
Sure.
question, which is, yeah, I got an offer from NASA, but really when I graduated from engineering school, that NASA wasn't at its kind of glorious moment anymore. So I went for the private sector and I worked for Boeing Aerospace. And unfortunately, Boeing Aerospace is not about kind of space as a final frontier, which is what drew most of us Trekkies into space. It was a continuation of earthly conflicts. So from there, I thought about retooling myself, went back to school and got into computational linguistics that you mentioned, which then blossomed into what is AI today. But very primitive back in my days. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have the engineering power. So, and then AI at that point in 1980s took a dive. So it's time for me to retool myself. So I decided to go to law school. And as to my choices of University of Hawaii, I think that has to do with kind of my choice in University of California, Berkeley too. I think growing up a minority child, you often feel like, I don't think it's anybody who's trying to stereotype me, but you look for models as a youngster. You look around me and you feel like I'm somehow confined in who I can be, especially in places where there's not a large Asian population, we're relegated to certain roles, whatever the roles may be. And I think University of Hawaii, and less so, but also in that trend is University of California, Berkeley. There are large enough Asian populations where I can be myself. So I think I chose those schools so I've to give myself the freedom to be who I really want to be, so to speak. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure,
Is that,
definitely. And I
no.
think, Zach, part of it is sometimes, when we surround ourselves with people, like-minded people, it's part of mentorship in our life. When we're mentoring ourselves or being a comfort zone in order to be able to grow. Because if you're always continually being in an environment that's not supportive, not like-minded people, you're struggling, you challenge yourself, and that's exactly, being an obstacle in your growth, in your trajectory. So I think definitely, and I think it's also again the opportunity to reshape your entire trajectory by moving to different universities. Again, you chose it, and that's where you see where you are in nowadays. So actually, your story reminds all of us again that success isn't just about technical expertise; it's about recognizing and seizing, like you did here as well in the schools, the pivotal moment that align with your deeper purpose, exactly cultural, all the other things are important to all of us. Again, those of you join us, please join us. We're still live. And if you have questions to Elizabeth during the session, do it right now under the video, the place of the chat. That's where you ask your question. And again, those of you joining right now, we're still with Elizabeth Chien-Hale talking about launch from NASA engineer to IP lawyer to a peace advocate. But now let's continue our conversation, David.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Itzik. And Elizabeth, one of the things that you just highlighted is so often in our conversations, Itzik and I focus on the importance of getting out of your comfort zone. And so I love how you balance the fact that you actually need to have some level of security in order to be able to take that step. And what's really impressive about your career path is how you focused continuing on continuing your education. First we had your degree, your undergraduate degree, you have your master's degree, you have a degree in linguistics, you have the law degree, you have an LLM, and that hasn't even stopped because this year you're an NYU visiting scholar. So can you tell us sort of, first of all, maybe you can give us a broader picture of how you view education, and then tell us how you came to apply to this position and what you've been working on, which of course, I don't need to uh, foreshadow it too much, but that will probably help us tell what the peace advocate piece of the title will be.
Okay, yeah. I should say that transition is very difficult. It is a propelling force that kind of forces a person to move out of the comfort zone and to grow. In my case, I had to reconcile the two parts of me. I mean, there is a strong Chinese cultural side, which I want to bring into my profession. And there's also the engineering side, which I never really, I left. I no longer became an engineer, but I kind of kept it throughout my career. And an education institution, I can't sing enough praises for educational system. That's a place where one can tool, can grow, to develop a network, can launch oneself again. You see that. And I'm not the only person. I think many people, when they need transition or they want to kind of grow the other parts of themselves, they go back to school. And besides the degree programs, which I obtained in my younger years, I've also discovered this visiting scholar program. I was a visiting scholar at Peking University in China after law school. I took a very short visiting scholarship at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences for the IP program when I was before I joined Apple. And I'm taking like 1 year sabbatical to be a visiting scholar at New York University now. They have a great U.S. Asia Law Institute, which was founded by a very well-known professor in the field, Jared Coleman, who's been one of the pioneers in the Asian law area in the United States. So, yeah, visiting program, I feel like I'm no longer seeking a degree, and I feel like this is a great opportunity for the university, for me to have access to the university. I can talk to professors, I can audit classes. They provide the resources to enable research, and so this time is like really developing another part that I had to not abandon, but pay little attention to, which is the US China Taiwan relationship, which is being a huge part of my personal life. And I would say my whole life is being driven by the dynamics between the three places. My family moved from China to Taiwan because of the Civil War. I moved from Taiwan with my family, and I immigrated to the United States from Taiwan to the United States for fear of China's invasion. And we are happily American citizens now, but we still pay a lot of attention to the conflicts. Because as you probably saw, that there is a recent Wall Street Journal, probably 2 or 3 days ago, about China's attempt to blockade. We don't know if it's really going to happen or not, but this is definitely another conflict area which is just lurking in the background besides the other conflicts we have around the world in Europe and in the Middle East.
So
And you
tell
can
us.
imagine there's another Elizabeth right now that's also thinking about moving from Taiwan to the United States.
So tell us a little bit about the paper that you're writing as part of the of your NYU visiting scholar position.
Yeah, we have to kind of conclude our research project. Mine kind of morphed because I'm an intellectual property lawyer. I did some WTO work because WTO has a great treaty on intellectual property law, and they also have a dispute mechanism. So I thought I would bring that into the peace proposal to develop this framework. So the way I see it, the conflict, there's several fold, right? One is the territorial. Taiwan still controls territories which are arguably really China's. The United States is not disputing that. Taiwan probably doesn't dispute it, but interesting enough, neither Taiwan nor China is eager to take it back. So there is that territorial ambiguity. There is also the international ambiguity. What is the sovereignty of Taiwan? Taiwan was ceded to Japan. So at the World War II, Chiang Kai-shek, who led the party, the lost party from the Civil War to Taiwan, he was appointed by President Roosevelt and Prime Minister Churchill to be the force that received the territories surrendered by Japan, namely Taiwan and Penghu Islands. So, but although there was never any treaty, so many will argue that since there was no international treaty, we only have treaty on Japan surrendering. There is no treaty on Taiwan's sovereignty issue. I mean, Taiwan's sovereignty is undecided, so we have that international law issue to work out. And then finally, I think international monitoring is the most important thing. Taiwan is strategically very important because of Taiwan Strait and because it's semiconductor manufacturing process. I think they hold 80%, they make 80% of the world's chips. So international monitoring is for everyone's benefit. So there are these three pieces I'm trying to put together into my peace proposal. And I think, again, and this is my theory, there is really no reason for a fight. I've grown personally too. Well, this is based on an earlier paper from Hawaii when I was thinking about a unification proposal. At this stage in development, I don't think unification is going to be very easy. I think now we work toward a peace proposal with the buy-ins of United States, China, Taiwan, and main players, the strong neighbors, Korea and Japan, and with world monitoring through the WTO, the UN, and other countries who are willing to help with the situation.
Wow. Well, it's exciting to hear about, and I'm hopeful that it'll actually, be something that progresses and is something that gets picked up by international bodies. That would be really exciting.
And don't forget, when you win the Peace Prize, Bob, we'll interview you here first about it. So.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
That's amazing. I mean, I think the commitment, to continuous learning, as you mentioned, Elizabeth and David, even even at the peak of one's career, it's what sets exceptional professional apart. I think it's not just about adding credential to your ego; it's about expanding your capacity, as exactly what you do, Elizabeth, to make meaningful impact. And I think we get into that point, and that learning comes from a different when you start in your career and you learn as a student. So it's a totally different perspective. Again, the same institute, STEM learning, but totally different, Elizabeth. So again, we are here with Elizabeth Chien-Hale, speaking about launch from NASA engineer to IP lawyer and peace advocate. And we are still here, so we're still live, and you want to join us. Because, first, we're glad that all of you are joining us from all over the world, I could see. And for your attention for that, again, if you have a question for Elizabeth, now it's your time, almost by the end of our conversation. So now it's your time to ask your question or give your comment or give your input for what we are discussing. Well, we came to our attention switch moment, as you know, a good opportunity to give attention to people who deserve it within the ABA International Law Section global community. And I must admit in advance, we asked Elizabeth to give us no more than 2-3 names. So maybe she could give for 10 or 20 or 100 of you. So don't get insulted, please, if she didn't mention your name. She probably tell it you personally. But who are the two people, Elizabeth, you want to mention today as a thank you for them within the ABA International Law Section community, and why?
David told me to focus on the projects rather than persons, and there are too many people to thank, really. I mean, I was a recipient of so much goodwill along the way, so I will focus on the projects and because of the project,
sure.
the people. The first, I think, is Michael Burke. He was, I met him when he was a chair of the China committee. I was more active in the intellectual property law section. And he kind of brought me in and said, well, we have the China committee. He put me on the steering committee and he took a tour. I mean, we used to have this yearly tours. So he took a group of us to several Asian countries, Japan, Korea, and China. So that was a good introduction to the international law section. And then during the time, I would say from the 2000 and 2010, China was going through rapid intellectual property law changes, and the ABA committee took a great interest. I was often the lead from the intellectual property law section, and Yuhua Chen was often the lead from the international law section. So we worked together on making many, many comments. That was not an easy process. I mean, sometimes very tense, and there were so many opinions, and we had to appease so many different desires. So it was a long process, and Yuval was great help along the way. And finally, David already mentioned, I was his deputy for when his budget started, when he was a budget chair, when he became the vice chair, chair-elect, and chair. And I think through that deputy position, I was exposed and I got an inside view of international law section, which was probably would not have been so easily gotten if I were just a committee chair or a division chair as I am now. I learned a lot from those positions and how the section operates and how the ABA operates.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Mike Burke and Iwa are a great group to be coupled with. So happy to be included in any group that includes the two of them.
Yeah, and we didn't tell you your rule because you're not allowed to mention David or myself, but it's fine. I mean, I'll let you
not
break
really
the rule
allowed,
legally.
but
I was focused on the
make an
projects.
exception. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you
Focus
very
on the
much.
project. Exactly.
I love to see David getting read in public, so it's good.
Exactly.
He deserves it. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Again, your time for question is now. If you want to ask question before we say goodbye to Elizabeth, but before we close today, let's talk about something that at the heart of every remarkable career. You know what it is? Inspiration. Finding what truly inspires you isn't just about following your passion, whoever told you that. It's about recognizing those moments that light the fire within you and give your work deeper meaning. Whether it's the boundless possibility of space explosion, or maybe the dance of intellectual property law, or the noble pursuit of global peace. Your inspiration is your compass in times of uncertainty. It what gets you through the challenging days and make victories sweeter, if you want. And Elizabeth, I think, shown us, if you listen carefully, she's shown us that inspiration isn't static. It's evolved as we grow, pushing us to explore new horizons and taking bigger challenges. Because your journey from gazing engineer to innovative IP lawyer to a peace advocate reminds all of us that when we follow our inspiration, we don't just build career, we create legacies. And I think that's what you're noticing. And I think you should listen to it carefully again. And you see, it's more than just a story. That's why we call it stand out. Because this is the remarkable thing that we take it for granted because it's our life, it's our career. But there's things more meaningful that we hope you'll be able to see us. So for now, we don't want you to leave you because David and myself will talk beyond Elizabeth back. Well, we just want to thank Elizabeth here to being here. It was great honor again having you here. We had great things behind your back before you join us, and now when you join us, it's an honor and a commitment to really your commitment to continuous learning and fearless evolution is truly remarkable. And we both want to thank you for that, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you
invitation. My
so much,
pleasure.
Elizabeth. So great to have you with us.
So don't leave us. Thank you, Elizabeth left us, but David and myself still here to give you some little bit, some knowledge, extra knowledge that we learned. David, what do you think? What did you enjoy?
I particularly appreciated so often we're on the treadmill and we're trying to get to the end of whatever race it is that we're running. And Elizabeth showed that actually, if you want a more fulfilling career, that taking the moments to stop, and as she became, at NYU and in China and in Hawaii, visiting scholars, taking those moments can both give you energy for the rest of your life and teach you for lessons that you can apply in your career. And so often we don't take those moments. And I really took away from what Elizabeth shared, how we need to sort of pause and realize that we have to think about things on a larger scale and not just focus on our immediate goal, but really on what we're trying to achieve broadly in our lives. And if we do that, maybe we'll realize that, you know what, sometimes getting off that treadmill for a bit and, spending some time in China, Hawaii, NYU, that's where we really should be at any particular point in time.
Thank you, David.
What
It's
about
very
you?
great point. And I hope people writing it down because we are not telling it in the air because we want you to learn as we're learning from our conversation. So if you ask me what I had to distill, so I think there are a few key lessons from today's conversation so far. So here what stands out for me. First, I think your first career choice isn't your last, right? So remain open to evolution. Elizabeth journey just remind us that our resume don't have to be linear, right? Sometimes the most rewarding path involve really taking unexpected turns and trusting your intuition. The future belongs to those who are willing to reinvent themselves. And we know that already and we see it. Number two, expertise is a journey, not a destination. So you keep learning always. Because in the age of rapid change, we come into our ways, complacency is the enemy of progress. And again, Elizabeth's commitment to continuous learning, as we mentioned several times, even at the peak of her career, is that's what set exceptional professional apart. So your most valuable asset isn't your current skills, but your capacity to adapt and grow. And by the way, we said the moment you stop learning, that's the moment you start dying. So here we go. And number three, purpose, fuel, persistence. So what I think you should do is align your work with what truly matters to you. To you, when you're driven by a deeper sense of purpose, obstacles become opportunities. Again, we go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth transition from NASA engineer to IP lawyer to a peace advocate really show us that following your passion can unlock remarkable resilience. So I want you to align your work with your values, and you will never lack the motivation to keep going if you do that. Almost at the end, number four is build bridges, not walls. Whether in law or technology or peace advocacy, the most innovative solution often emerge when we have the courage to connect these disparate fields and perspectives. You want to adopt interdisciplinary, thinking. You want to keep you open-minded, and you just, might discover, if you want, your next breakthrough over there. And as you reflect on today's conversation, I really want you to consider this quote by Robert Greene, who said, "The future belongs to those who learn more skills and combine them in creative ways." And I think that's what we saw exactly example of Elizabeth's journey. Remember, your career isn't a straight line, it's a canvas waiting for your unique brushstrokes if you want to paint your life. So, our friends, that's the time to take action. Yes, we are at the end now. You didn't ask your question, you had the chance. I didn't see question coming. So hopefully when you watch the replay, you can still ask question because we make Elizabeth know about it and may answer your question directly. Again, take action, implement what you've learned this session. We've been here with Elizabeth Chien-Hale. She's a top IP lawyer and a wonderful member and supporter of the American Bar Association International Law Section. And you guessed it, David. It's your turn now. Wow, thank you again, David. I would not explain to you how much I love it, although we do it once a month, etc. How much meaningful for me those conversations, also for my own growth, but our friendship and another learning opportunity for both of us. And I really, really look forward for many more coming our year. I know we're working out on it. Powerful conversation and all these oncoming episodes. So thank you, David, for that.
Oh, thank you, Itzik. I'm already excited. Just for those who are watching, they should know that not only do we have the rest of this year planned out, but we're already starting with the scheduling September. So we're very excited about the rest of this year, including, God willing, we'll be hearing from the president of the ABA himself in June. And so keep your eye out on LinkedIn. We're now on Facebook Live. And of course, you can watch all of the episodes recorded on the ABA International Law Section's website. So don't hesitate to visit there to watch all of our past episodes if you haven't seen them.
Great. And the last thing, David and myself want to thank each one of you who took the time be with us, listen to Elizabeth's story. Thank you very much for joining us. And make sure to join us our next episode, David said, and share, please, this episode with anyone who might needs these lessons today. Until next time, our friends, keep growing, keep giving, and keep building success in the ways that truly matters. See everyone next Standout episode. And for now, bye from all of us.
Thanks,
Bye.
Itzik. Bye-bye, everybody.